You know what? It's time for Nonprofit Insider.
Driving, music's blaring in my ears. Engines roaring, the horizon's drawing near. Pedal to the floor, no more feet in the door. Gonna drive right out of this bitter night. I'm a constant seeker in Converse sneakers.
Welcome to Nonprofit Insider. My name is David Unger, and I'm pleased to be hosting a show with executive directors and key people of local nonprofits. I've worked in the nonprofit world for over 30 years myself, and in those years I've realized that the majority of the community does not know about the organizations that provide critical services and benefits to our community that we sometimes take for granted. Nonprofit Insider is a chance to hear about the organizations that touch so many in our community. The opinions expressed on Nonprofit Insider are not necessarily those of WMPG, its staff and underwriters, or of USM. We have a kind of an interesting show today. I don't know if you heard our weather forecast. It was kind of animated. Thank you. Joining us from One Longfellow Square, our board members Al Layton, Joe Walsh, and Scott Moeller, Development Coordinator and Facilities Manager. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Well, so who's who?
I am Scott.
You're Scott.
Hey, I'm Joe Walsh.
And I'm Al Layton.
Are you the Joe Walsh?
The Joe Walsh here today.
Okay.
Oh, that Joe Walsh.
That Joe Walsh. So how would you describe One Longfellow Square?
One Longfellow Square, this is Al Layton. I think think of it as the place where audiences and artists connect better than anywhere else in Portland. We're connecting audiences to in a way that doesn't happen in Portland. So we have a mix of musical acts and education programs, and we have community organizations who hold their events here at One Longfellow Square as well. It's the place for music, arts, and community here in Portland.
And you're a fairly new nonprofit, aren't you?
Almost 4 years.
Yeah, 2011.
Okay,
right?
that's newish.
Yeah.
Right.
But one of the, I'm guessing from what I've heard, you don't have an executive director.
We don't.
So that's kind of been a challenge in itself, I would assume.
Sure, yeah. I think it naturally presents some challenges to not have that figurehead that's running the ship, But I think, like any business, you do the best you can and hope for the best.
Right. So the board has a much more active role in the day-to-day decision-making and leadership.
Yeah. And luckily we have a very active and very involved board who does, we have committees to address the various issues of membership, of fundraising, and overseeing the day-to-day operation.
And now your position on the board is?
I'm vice president.
And Joe?
I'm the co-chair.
So who's the other co-chair?
Matt Stein.
Okay. And how many people are on the board?
12.
So do you feel because there's not an executive director, the board has to meet on a more regular basis, or do you still stick to the monthly board meeting schedules and different board members have different responsibilities?
That's right. Yeah, and there's a monthly meeting, and then there's a bunch of smaller groups that meet more frequently. So we obviously make the monthly meeting, and then I might meet 3 or 4 times with other subgroups over the month.
Let's go back to Al's comment about it being a very unique community venue. Describe that a little more. What does that mean?
Well, when OLS became a nonprofit, go back just a little bit.
OLS is
One Longfellow Square. We were a for-profit for about 4 years before that, and what we found is that there were numerous requests from community organizations, from schools, to do events at One Longfellow Square, to do teach kids how to run sound equipment, for instance, to have rehearsals for new Mainers, to a place where they can rehearse and play. And there were requests for these kinds of activities all along, but the answer was always the same. Well, gee, we can't really sell tickets to kids learning how to run sound equipment. And they were trying to think, how could we do these kinds of activities, given that there were so many requests? So that's how we came to be a nonprofit organization, so that now we're able to have Maine Inside Out, for instance, a group of kids who are in the Long Creek Youth Center, formerly known as the Maine Youth Center. They are having events at OLS. They meet weekly to help prepare and plan their activities. So we have events like that. We have the new Mainers Choir has just begun rehearsing at 1 Longfellow Square on a weekly basis. They will be having both of those groups, the choir and the Maine Inside Out, will be holding events, public events at OLS also.
You've gone through an interesting transition, though, from a for-profit to nonprofit, which I don't hear much about. So that must have been a real culture shock to the organization in so many different ways.
Yeah, I think
it's a different way of thinking, for sure. You know?
Yeah.
And I wasn't around for a lot of it, but I think it's definitely served us well to have made that leap, for sure.
So, Scott, you're on the professional staff.
Yes.
Okay, so how many professional staff members are there?
There's 4 of us up there.
4. And how large a budget are you working with?
We're still kind of working through that. I think we're right around 400, 500 in that neighborhood.
Right.
1,000, not.
Right.
Sometimes it feels different. But.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they said, well, to join this group, it'd be $2.79. And I said, $2.79? No. So I guess, the governor has had a lot of publicity in the last couple of weeks with things that he said right after his election about nonprofits being takers and not givers. And recently with the budget and the property tax issue, would that affect 1 Longfellow Square?
We don't own any property.
Oh, so you're renting?
We rent. Yeah, we sure do.
Okay.
we pay rent every month, lots of it. So that end wouldn't affect 1 Longfellow Square.
So have you gone through like a strategic planning process? And
we did, and we're about to do it again.
Okay.
Sometime over during this year.
So owning your own facility, would that be a long-term goal?
Yeah, well...
Long-term was the operative word.
Yeah, very long term. I think to find a space that could do what we needed to do in a downtown location would be cost prohibitive. I would imagine. I've never looked for it, but I imagine it would be pretty pricey.
And how many people can actually come into the facility for a concert? Or
seated, we can hold 185 people, and standing room, we've done up to like 210, 220.
So you're fairly limited in what you can do in terms of the size.
Right. It's one of those cases where limitation is also your strength, because the experience that you get coming as an audience member at Longfellow is not the same as you'd find somewhere louder or more rowdy. And so the thing that's our greatest selling point is also something that is a challenge.
What do you sense is the largest obstacle, hurdle an organization your age has?
Might be.
I mean, I think with like any nonprofit, I think finding funding is always a mystery.
But you're the development person. That shouldn't be a mystery.
Mystery is the wrong word. A challenge is what I should have said. And I think just being able to do everything that we want to do is not. We have a lot of people involved and a lot of different ideas, and we usually are really good about making those ideas come together in one cohesive thing that makes sense. But there's a lot of ideas and a lot of people and a lot of
right. And we don't have we're a nonprofit. We're most of what we do, or a lot of what we do, is music, and it's not really a profitable line of the arts world. But so we have to be creative and have ingenuity about solving our problems because we don't have deep pockets.
So if you had to pick one area that you wanted to raise money for, what would it be?
Well, I mean, one big thing that's a focus in the next year is funding an executive director.
Okay.
So that's it may not be our. I may be just guessing that that's our priority, but it's certainly one of the big priorities.
So you feel you need an executive director at this point?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not going to hurt, you know. I think just having that one person who can, you know, rather than board members getting emails from everyone like, hey, like we need this done, or vice versa, you know, us getting, you know, multiple emails from board members and stuff like that. It's just a way to streamline that
Right.
isn't make.
Yeah,
It's taxing on a board member because the
Sure.
board's
Yeah.
is a volunteer organization.
Yeah.
that's right.
So
For sure.
there's certain things that an exec or a paid leader would need to take on that would alleviate the board and allow them to do what they're supposed to be doing.
That's totally right. Yeah.
So do you think finding an executive director with the skill set that you would need with the arts and the administrative pieces are going to be difficult to find?
Difficult, yes. But Portland and the greater Portland area has tremendous talent, and there's a huge number of people who are big supporters of arts and arts education and of music. So what we found in the past when we did have an executive director, we got multiple responses when we put out ads for ED. And what we expect will happen again is that there's a lot of people who would love to help run a place like One Longfellow Square. It's known throughout the music community, particularly, as one of the places for musicians to play. Performers love the audiences at One Longfellow Square. They love the room. They love the vibe that we creating here. So what we found again when we have hired EDs in the past, that people just want to be part of this.
That's true.
So you know what time it is now?
Trivia time?
It's trivia time. And I had to search long and hard for this trivia question.
All right.
And you have an unfair advantage to most organizations because there's three of you versus the one. So all three of you could either be successful or not. So I'm going to ask the trivia question. I'll go to my midpoint identifier, and then you can give me your answers. And you can each give me your own answer if you want. Or you can huddle while I'm doing the midpoint identifier and come up with a group answer. What is the average temperature in Honolulu on January 30th? You want to play a little mandolin? Maybe that.
Oh, yeah, to channel Honolulu.
Yeah.
This is David Unger, and I'm host of Nonprofit Insider on WMPG, listener-supported, 90.9 and 104.1, community radio of Southern Maine and Eastern New Hampshire. Joining us from One Longfellow Square are board members Al Layton, Joe Walsh, and Scott Moeller, who's the development coordinator and facilities manager. So, I have the answer. Do you?
68.
68.
That's exactly what my thought was. Yeah.
Okay, well then I can't disagree with you guys.
All right. Well, all three of you are wrong. Deb, what did you say it was? 68. According to weatherspark.com, the average temperature in Honolulu on January 30th is 80 degrees. So should we read our weather report again? All right, so let's get back to some serious stuff here, I guess. But Longfellow Square is a lot of fun, and it's a great place to be. So serious kind of mixes into it.
So we even have a new comedy series called Fun Longfellow Square.
Fun
So-
long.
What
What's
about
that
Fun
about?
Longfellow
It's-
Square? That should be in there too.
Yeah, that's true. Fun Longfellow Square. It's the Portland Comedy Co-op.
Okay.
They're doing a first Monday of every month. They're doing a showcase
great.
called Fun Longfellow.
So you do comedy, you do
Yeah.
music, you do community events, you do children and
We've had
youth.
dance.
Dance.
Yeah.
What don't you do? What is the space limit you from doing?
Well, we don't really rage, you know. We're not the place
Yeah.
where if you want to like go out and like tear it up and like just yell,
Okay.
we're not that place. And that's like again, it's like, so that's one of our strengths is like
Yeah.
if you don't want to have your beer spilled on your shoes where you walk around.
But alcohol is served there.
Yes.
That's right. But
Okay.
but you know, I think making a distinction between being able to have a beer and being able to like go out and party with your bros. You know, it's not
Yeah.
really us.
Right.
Yeah, which I think it's a really cool thing about our place. There's not, some places are it's not a pressure, but there's like everyone's just drinking, like you're part of the whole thing. But at our place, it's people come, they have like a glass of wine and enjoy a show, and it's really nice. Nothing ever gets out of control. We don't have security or anything like that. You know, I mean, we have very, very strict security.
Right.
There.
Yeah. In disguise,
Yeah.
they're there.
Yeah, undercover.
So how do you evaluate a program like yours? How do you go into measurements? And, United Way is big on outcome measurements, which, I'm assuming you don't receive United Way dollars at this point in time. But, when you begin applying for grants and individual donors, they're saying, well, how do you measure this stuff? How do you measure your success?
I think it depends on what the precedent was. I think we look at our numbers and we see how they've grown and the amount of people. Like we always will look at what the previous year, like for example, tonight Johnny A is performing, so to prepare ourselves for that, we'll look at last year's numbers and after the fact, we'll look back on it and kind of see if things were bigger, if we made more dollars and had more people.
I mean, there's a bunch of metrics you could say. How are we succeeding at offering a diverse array of music? There's some things that you can see at Longfellow that you wouldn't be able to see if the emphasis every single day was the bottom line. So we are willing to take a risk and bring things to Portland that other people aren't, and that sometimes that's not that doesn't pay off, and sometimes it gives you another person, somebody's favorite band.
Yeah.
So there's that metric. We have interacted with a bunch of kids. There's the kids open mic, and that you could look at how many youth have been involved at Longfellow. I don't think we have one metric in which we gauge our success.
We could also look at the number of members, the number of people who have donated money to One Longfellow Square to ensure that we continue. That number has grown significantly over the past 6 months. Joe mentioned the kids and teens open mic that we do with 10 to 18-year-olds, and we've been doing this for a couple of years. And earlier last year, for the first time, some of the kids those 10 to 18-year-old teenagers, played on a Saturday night with Pete Kilpatrick. For the first time, somebody moved up from the kids open mic to the big time. And they were thrilled. They just loved it. And to me, that's a huge measure of we're doing something really great here.
Sure.
So when I meet with a client and I'm consulting with them and we talk about their case for support for fundraising purposes, the one question I ask them is, if you would close your doors tomorrow, what impact would it have on the community?
Wow.
That's a hard question. I think we've been faced with that reality. We did a huge fundraising effort last year, and luckily the community came together and raised almost $40,000 for us in 40 days. And I think we all in the back of our mind kind of had that feeling like, wow, like this. What if we don't make it through this? And I think what we'd lose is obviously we'd lose a great room, and I think we'd lose a valuable contributor to the Portland music scene, where we have that room that audience or musicians love playing because people actually come and listen. And I can't think of any other places in town that really have that kind of back and forth between the audience and the performer. Like it feels like someone's playing in your living room, and that experience I think would be a huge loss.
And it's a way to stay in touch with the music scene nationally, because Longfellow Square is something I travel a lot for music, and I always hear about it from other musicians. How do I get to play there? And as a Portland resident, you'd miss out on if the place closed. You'd miss out on seeing Greg Brown or whomever else. That's the place they play, and it'd be a more awkward fit anywhere else in the city. We might just not see those artists anymore.
Right.
Portland's a great music town, and if any music room were to shut down, that suggests that the music scene is struggling and not doing as well as we want. So that would be an indicator that Portland in general is having a hard time. One of the things that specifically at Longfellow Square would be the community activities that we've been trying to expand on recently. We have kids. Well, I'm not sure they're all kids necessarily, but people. There's a choir with people from Syria and Somalia and Burundi, and there's no place else that they are able to play together, to connect their native culture with their new culture. That would be a huge loss for Portland, and for many communities. And again, that applies to kids at the youth center, and it applies to music fans in general who tell us all the time, wow, we love One Longfellow Square, and we become members to make sure that this continues.
Yeah, and we're a demonstration that, like, whether it's music or whatever else is going on there, it doesn't have to be background to drinking. We're evidence that it's actually worthy of attention.
Yeah.
It's funny that you said that musicians know about One Longfellow Square. I gave Scott a CD today of Mike Hubbard, who does my theme music. Hopefully, the reputation is out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, this is another hard question, and I always get a lot of flack for this because it's like you're asking me to pick my favorite child. But what program really excites you about what you do? And I know all of them, blah, 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 but, we each all have our own individual little shticks. Which one gets you?
I might be biased because I was instrumental in starting it, but the live and local series that we're doing is, I think, a really important thing. On Tuesday nights, we have 2 local bands come, and it's a $5 show. It goes from 9 till 10:30, and we just brought bands in that have never even been in the room, let alone played there. And I think we've kind of opened a lot of eyes with that and shown a new angle of our room that perhaps people didn't think we could do or would do. So, I mean, we've had everything from, very mellow singer-songwriters to we've had metal bands in there, and we've, set off the fire alarms with fog machines, and that's the things that I don't think people really think about when they think about One Longfellow Square is lasers and fog machines.
Right.
But we're slowly but surely we're going to change their mind.
Okay.
I suppose it's not a program per se, but one thing I really value is the risk taking. In the programming over the course of the year, over the last few years, there's a lot of stuff that you would say you might qualify, or you might call a risk. Just saying this person's never been to Portland. We're not exactly sure how they'll do, but there's a lot of value for me in the place being willing to take a risk on an artist that has a lot of potential.
For me, it's always kind of a different. What's my favorite program at the moment? But the moment right now, it is the main Inside Out. It's the kids at the youth center. So it's a group made up of kids who are at the youth center, the Long Creek, and they've been there for some time. They're going to be there for a while still. It's some kids who are going to be released pretty soon from Long Creek, and some who have been recently released. And you think of prisoners. They're prisoners.
Right.
And prisoners are, a lot of people see them kind of the bottom of the barrel. So I just love that we're involved with them. They talk about their lives, how they came to be at the youth center, their goals and dreams of once they get out, what their life will be like after they get out. And they do these plays focusing on exactly those issues, how they got there, what they see as how their life's going to be when they're done. This is a remarkable event and series that just does not happen. They've had a hard time finding a place to do these kinds of events, and
so you bring them to the room.
That's right. They did one public event a couple of months ago, and they're now working on their next one. The place was overflowed. We had to shut the doors, couldn't let people in anymore. And just the most touching thing you'll ever do. There's nothing like it, and I love that OLS does this.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for me?
What is the average temperature on January 15th in Milwaukee?
Well, before I answer the question, I did live in Milwaukee. So.
Well, then you should know.
I'm going to guess about 33.
Wrong.
Wrong?
It's 38.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I lived there in the Ice Age. If people could see me, you could tell that I was born in the Ice Age. So, okay. Any other questions for me?
No, that was my only question.
All right. No? Okay. So I'm hoping that some folks would want to make a donation or join after hearing a little bit about what you do. How would they do that?
Become a member is one of the easiest ways to do it. And just write a check.
Go to onelongfellowsquare.com.
Right.
There's a.
Oh, that's right.
It's
yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah,
button
we
for,
just added the button. That you
Yes,
just
I saw it.
hit the button.
Yeah.
You go to the website, onelongfellowsquare.com.
Yep.
They can call you.
Mhm.
And if they wanted to get involved and volunteer, they would do it the same way?
There's
Yeah.
a button for volunteers.
Yeah.
Do you need volunteers?
We always want more volunteers. I'm also the volunteer coordinator.
Uh-huh.
We have 204 currently, but we always want some more. So hit the button.
Hit the button.
And our volunteers are so important to what we do there.
Yeah.
There's so many nights. We have 2 or 3 volunteers on every night, and they go above and beyond for sure. And
So you have 3 staff people.
Well, we have maybe more staff people than. I think we were making a distinction between how many are basically full time and how many.
Full time,
Yeah.
correct.
And there's a bunch that are sort of part time too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So are you talking about during a show?
During a show.
Yeah. So during a show, generally we'll have our bartender and our sound guy, and that's pretty much it.
Who are volunteers?
No. Those are people that work
Okay.
for us. Then we'll have 2 or 3 volunteers that are the people when have you been to a show at
Yes.
Longfellow? So the people that check your name off that little list when you walk in, those guys are all volunteers, and they help clean up the space at the end of the night, and
Yep.
and they're just all a pleasure to be around. It's great.
So do you think making the move into a nonprofit was, in hindsight, the right thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah, without a doubt.
If you hadn't, you wouldn't be on the show.
Yeah, it was all just a big ploy to be on the show.
That's it.
That's why I did that.
Well, I want to thank the 3 of you for being on the show today. This is great. Hopefully our community got a little more insight into the kind of work you do. And I did not know about the youth program, so that is tremendous stuff.
Yeah.
Next week, we have Mark Swan, Executive Director of Preble Street. The music appears courtesy of Mike Hubbard. You can find Mike's music on www.michaelhubbardmusic.com. Check out Mike's website to see where he's playing this weekend. Thanks to Deb Danger, MPI's executive engineer. You can catch Deb on Morning Street, Fridays at 6:30. If you know of a nonprofit that should be on the show, please email me at npi@davidunger.net. Nonprofit Insider is now on Facebook. Please post your questions or a nonprofit you would like to see on the show. And past shows are archived at www.tcmgr.com, NP Insider tab.
Yeah, I might leave a few friends behind, but these weights are tying me down. I can't be sure that
Stay tuned for Zvuki Rusi, music from Mother Russia.